Hello, my topic is Microbiota as predictor of mortality in allogeneic hematopoietic-cell transplantation. Definition: Hematopoietic-cell transplantation (ACT) is a critical treatment of patients with high-risk hematopoietic malignancy, hematological defense, and other immune diseases. To perform an allogenic transplant, try find a related ARN donor comparable who is generally a brother. Average family size American usually limits the possibility of finding a family donor at approximately 30% of patients.
There are three types of bone marrow or stem cell transplants: autologous, allogeneic, and syngeneic. In an autologous transplant, the stem cells you receive are your own. There is no need for a donor. In this procedure, your bone marrow stem cells are removed from your blood before you undergo high-dose chemotherapy. The stem cells are then stored in a freezer until the time of the transplant. The autologous transplant is commonly performed for lymphoma, multiple myeloma, amyloidosis, and certain types of leukemia. An autologous transplant requires your bone marrow to be free of disease and functioning properly. In an allogeneic transplant, healthy stem cells are taken from a donor that matches your blood cells. The stem cells are then transplanted back to you. Special blood tests called human leukocyte antigen typing, or HLA, are done to determine whether or not a donor's cells match yours. It is important that the stem cells of the donor match those of your blood cells as perfectly as possible. If the blood cells are not a good match, donor cells and your cells can attack each other. This can cause rejection of the marrow and/or an attack on your organs. The search for a donor usually begins with brothers and sisters who have the same parents as you do. If a brother or sister matches you on all 6 HLA sites, he or she is considered a good match. If, however, a brother or sister is not a match, transplants can still take place with an unrelated and/or less perfectly matched donor if one is available. In a syngeneic transplant, the stem cells would be taken from identical twin if one were available. Their cells would then be transplanted to you after you receive a high dose of chemotherapy. All stem cell transplants use a central venous catheter to put the healthy cells into your body. The catheter is a flexible tube that is surgically inserted into the large vein above your heart. The type of transplant you receive depends on the type of cancer, if a match donor is available, and the health status of both you and the donor. Your transplant physician will discuss the type of transplant that is best for you.
Application in nursing. Substitute the patient hematopoiesis as it is insufficient, totally or partially definitive or neoplastic. Allow the administration of intensive anti-neoplastic treatment with
Cutler. I'm a hematologic oncologist here at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. I treat patients with all sorts of hematologic malignancies, specializing in allogeneic stem cell transplantation. I see all types of patients with blood cancers, focusing mainly on those patients who require stem cell transplantation. Patients who I see tend to have diseases like the leukemias, pre-leukemic conditions such as myelodysplasia, and some forms of lymphoma. The focus of my research is in stem cell transplantation. I develop drugs and strategies to prevent and to treat graft versus host disease. And I'm also particularly interested in decision theory as it relates to stem cell transplantation, helping patients understand why they should or should not undergo stem cell transplantation. I think the Farber is quite a special place. You walk around the halls and you realize that everyone working here is quite committed to cancer care. You don't get the same sense in some other places, bigger hospitals or multi-specialty clinics. We're really dedicated to cancer care here, and everyone wants the same goal, which is to eradicate cancer.
Pros and cons. Pros. The biggest advantages of allogeneic transplant are the absence of cell graft, malignant, the potential infects immune, anti-cancer immune effects injector versus tumor, and the possibility to treat malignant and non-malignant diseases of the bone marrow, genetic diseases including immunological. Cons. Among the disadvantages of allogenic transplantation include the difficulty of finding a donor HLA comparable appropriate and the possibility of develop a syndrome after transplant known as graft versus disease disorder GVHD, which contribute to the mortality and morbidity of the procedure. As it should apply in Ecuador. Approximately 300 cases of various autoimmune diseases have been transplanted worldwide. In our country, the technique has been possible institute it with transplant experience or talents performed by the transplant group from the Kennedy Clinic. The complications that appear linked to the treatment are generally well managed and advanced. Inpatient support allows to maintain morbidity and treatment, which might make it more permissive the indication of the procedure. Conclusion. Transplantation of peripheral progenitor cell it is a therapy being experimental for baseball, with increasing numbers of experience in the world, and is the basis for future therapy applicable in patients with hematological diseases and not hematological but benign and orderly evil